Rejection doesn't exist in the dictionary of God. If you don't believe me, go check it yourself. What exists in the dictionary of God and the lexicon of divine? Instead, you'll find love. What type of love? Unconditional divine love. Acceptance, embracing, and not just ordinary acceptance. Acceptance as divine child. So when we are in a rejection mode inside of us, then we have the urge to reject the outside world, knowingly or unknowingly. It is the nature of the rejection pattern. It's an unstoppable force. It's like a weed that just grows freely, unabated by itself. No matter how much you want it to go away, no matter how many times you cut the weed, it keeps coming back again and again and again. Rejecting self, rejecting others as a result, making your loved ones feel rejected. And then you reject yourself as a result because you feel so awful. The cycle continues. The rejection cycle, rejecting of self and others, and as a result, rejecting yourself again and again and again. Rejecting others who rejected somebody else at some point. Well, why did that person reject in the first place? Is because that person who rejected somebody felt rejected at some point. It is out of control. It has no reason. You cannot reason it. So, how do you counter rejection? By rejecting rejection, you are enforcing, you're making the pattern of rejection bigger because you have to subscribe to rejection. Rejecting the rejection pattern means that you have to use the energy of rejection to reject itself. And as a result, the rejection grows. The energy of the rejection grows. So, how do you counter the rejection pattern? You counter the rejection pattern with acceptance. It is very hard to put into action the acceptance of the rejection pattern. The very thing that you're rejecting, how can you genuinely accept it? The very thing that you hate, how can you genuinely love? Maybe you can fake it, maybe you can reason it. You're rejecting something because it doesn't fit your value system, because you see something that is not right. That is why you rejected it in the first place. Without changing the value system, how can you embrace what you just rejected? How can you embrace something that you've been rejecting for a long time because of your value system? So, if you reject your value system, again, you're empowering the rejection pattern. And why should you change your value system? Why should you reject your wisdom if you see something? If you see something, how can you turn a blind eye towards it? All in the name of peace, because it will not sit right with you. But feeling of rejection, being rejected, or rejecting someone else doesn't feel good either. It's an awful feeling, no matter which way you look at it. Rejecting or being rejected, or seeing someone going through the rejection or going through the feeling of rejection doesn't matter. It is fair or unfair. It's an awful feeling. It's a never ending game. Instead, we can shift the energy, moving from the feeling of rejection to the feeling of acceptance. Not about the incident or the person, moving away from the story, but staying with the feeling, moving the thoughts and the feeling and the memory and the attention and the energy that we continue to invest in the rejection pattern. Take that energy, take that time, take that attention, take that awareness, and invest in something you love, because we can easily embrace what we love. Very hard to embrace that we reject. Very hard to embrace something that we reject, but very easy to embrace something that we love, something that we like. very easy to accept something that we love, that we like. There is no word called rejection in the dictionary of God. Again, go check it. I did. It doesn't exist. The secret is in acceptance and love. God accepts all people equally at all time, unconditionally. I just have to turn my attention from disliking, rejecting something or someone to liking, to loving, to embracing. It could be anything, a pet, a loved one, doing something that you love, doing something that makes you feel good. No wonder people turn to comfort food. People turn to comfort food because it is comforting. It does help you deal with the rejection pattern. But the problem with that is that over time, you have weight gain issues. Rejection pattern has weight gain issues. Wherever there is weight gain, perhaps there is an underlying rejection pattern somewhere. Instead of turning towards food for comfort, how about shifting our energy, our thoughts, our feelings, our time in the direction of what we love, who we love? And in terms of practice, just surrender. Surrender that feeling of rejection, letting go of that feeling of letting go of the feeling of rejection at the feet of your. Just notice how we hold that feeling of rejection in ourselves. It's almost like we are bundling ourselves inside, holding on to that feeling of rejection. We don't even want to reject the feeling of rejection. It's a very interesting concept. We don't want to reject the feeling of rejection, but when we do reject the feeling of rejection, it becomes even more powerful. So, what do we do? I can't keep it. I can't hate it. Letting go. Just surrender the feeling of rejection. I'm not hating it. I'm not rejecting it. I'm just dropping it. Letting go. Surrendering the feeling of rejection at the feet of the Lord. Oh, Divine Mother, I am tired. Oh, Father, I'm exhausted. In the end, it's only grace. It is only grace that embraces it. It is only grace that accepts it. It is only grace that transforms it. It is only grace that transforms the feeling of rejection to acceptance. It converts the feeling of rejection to love. The shift is only in the energy. The shift is not in people, in circumstances. The change is not outside of me. The change is inside of me. That happens through letting go that feeling of rejection. Feeling of rejection that is associated with the current situation or with any past memories, if you're able to recall feeling this way. But the way I'm feeling today is the sum of, it's the culmination of the feeling of rejection from the past. So I don't really have to work too hard in terms of going into my memory lane. Let the memories bubble up, if they do, by themselves, effortlessly. And then surrendering and letting go of those memories, one after the other. What is common as a thread between all those memories is that constant feeling of rejection. So, what we have to surrender is the feeling of rejection. In this process, the feeling of guilt, the feeling of shame, the feeling of lifelessness, helplessness, lack of purpose, and so forth, might come up on surface. Even that has to be surrendered. Even that, let go. If I am willing to give up my life, if I am willing to give up purpose of my life, then why am I holding on to that feeling of rejection? Why am I not letting go of the feeling of rejection instead? Let go. Surrender that feeling of rejection instead. Let go of that fear that comes with the feeling of rejection. Let go of that uncertainty that comes with the feeling of rejection. It is grace. It is only grace. It is only love of God that can embrace, that can accept the feeling of rejection. It is beyond my control. It is beyond my capacity. Hence, surrender, surrender, surrender. Surrender that feeling of rejection at the feet of your Lord. Practice it during the daytime, practice it before going to sleep, and let it continue to work by itself subconsciously in your sleep. And you surrender to the higher consciousness. Miracles happen because there is no word called rejection in the dictionary of God. I promise you, I checked it. Instead, you'll find love in abundance and acceptance at the feet of the Lord as a child of the Lord. I'm a child of the Lord, and I embrace myself in love as a child of Lord. Amrita Putra, Amrita Putri, child of immortality. I embrace myself as a child of immortality. And I surrender whatever I need to let go, whatever makes me feel anything less of me. I surrender that. I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. Continue this practice for as long as you want. Repeat it as many times as you wish to, day and night. It heals. It is grace that heals. It is love that heals. It is acceptance that heals the rejection pattern. I love me, I love me, I love me, I love me, I love me. I love love. I love God. God loves me. I'm willing to let go of rejection and accept the things that I love in my life instead. Shifting the energy, shifting the focus from rejection to acceptance, from rejection to love. I love me.